walked the last time. So now I'm going to take a different route. I'm going to show you, it's a very short part of one of the older streets, and then I'll take you along the Esplanade, which is the Esplanade is called. That has a historical meaning in many ways. There is some statues of some famous literature character personalities, and of course one of the oldest restaurants of Helsinki. So just follow me and I'll take you along on this walking tour. So I'm going to turn the camera now so you can get a better view of what's going on. So we are now at Sofia Street. It's a very short street here, maybe a couple of 100 meters long, which ends up at the market square. But one of the interesting shops here, I need to point out, is a hat shop that opened in 1901. Most of the people are buying, what they're buying from this shop is their doctorate hat. Once they have done their PhD, this is where they come. And also if you're finishing your high school, you see this is graduating from high school, this is the hat or cap the students are wearing before they go to university. Historically, the university students tend to wear these hats, caps all the time, but nowadays it's only once a year during the May 1st or when they graduate. There's just a little bit of architecture you can see from this very nice detail of this building here. Of course, the usage of this area has changed over the years, but the pebble streets are still the same. Pebbles are still the same.
Hello.
Oh, my friend Muhammad, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How's the life?
Life is good.
Good. Family living is good.
Okay, all the best. There's a very popular pizza place called Via Tribunale. Probably considered the best, one of the best pizza places in Helsinki. They are featuring the Napoleon style pizzas. Of course, the pizza oven has to be a great oven, high temperature, and it takes a very short time for them to bake the pizza in the oven. This is a starting point for many of the tourists who are coming to Helsinki. They want to see the Senate Square. And we have more and more tourists coming to Helsinki now. Particularly, there's some cruise ships coming to Helsinki. And they land by the marketplace, which is not very far from the presidential palace. So we just arrived to the marketplace here. We can see the distance. You can also see that this is the City Hall, Helsinki City Hall. This building originally was the first luxury hotel in Helsinki, in a very prominent location. It was called a Seurahuone or Societetshus in Swedish, or the Society House. But it was closed, and the new location for that hotel ended up by the railway station. So we're going to cross the street in a moment, and we walk through the Central Park here. You can see the park here in the distance, and we are just along the Esplanade Park. But before we cross the street, I want to show you this fountain. Right here. The name of the fountain is called Haavis Amanda, and Haavis Amanda was created by a famous Finnish sculptor. It was very controversial in its days, and many people who were really against this, to show off this very risque statue of a naked woman here in the water fountain. But now we have, of course, things have changed, and this is a very central place for on the evening of the last day of April, which is part of that May Day celebration. Students have been traditionally putting the white hat that I displayed earlier in the hat shop, put on the top of Amanda's head. And this is also a place people are, for good luck, throwing coins. This is actually very well protected because of any time there is a World Championship or European Championship in ice hockey or football, and Finland has been doing very well. People have been celebrating and taking a dip here. Okay, we will continue now to the park here. This is one of the oldest restaurants in Helsinki, called Kappeli, or the Chapel, and it is really worthwhile to come for a meal. And because of central location, it's good for people watching here. People like to, in the summer, sit in the terrace. They have some great menus, and here opposite the chapel is the stage where there will be orchestras playing, bands playing. You know, historically, the whole park was the place to be seen, where couples dressed up and they walked, and they were having this a place for the promenade and to walk around. And so this has been here since the 1800s, and still remain one of the attractions of Helsinki. And you have some small fountains here, as you can see here. I never get tired of watching this, walking by here. Of course, the atmosphere has changed through the years, and here you will see one of the oldest, if not the oldest, kiosk here in the distance, since 1892. This is where they were selling lemon lemonade and refreshments at the time. Now it's more popular for coffee and ice cream. Here's a more modern version of the kiosk. This is from the 50s. Well, we continue our walk here. We have an interesting personality of the Finnish history coming up here. He is one of the celebrated literature giants of Finland. He was the national poet of Finland, Johan Ludvig Runeberg. He was Swedish speaking and born in 1804 and died 73 years later. And he had he wrote the national hymn called Vårt land, or Maamme laulu, which is sung on any national occasions. It's our country. It talks about our country here. Here he is, Johan Ludvig Runeberg. And over here is maybe the second oldest hotel in Helsinki. At least here, this is the facade of the original hotel. It's called the Kemp Hotel. Kemp Hotel was the place for many of the artists to hang around. They had a club where many of the Jean Sibelius, the national composer, and all the giants from that in the late 1800s used to spend time here. Here's another building here. It used to be, originally it was opened as a bank, Vasa Aktiebank. But of course this has now changed, it's an office building, but this is one of the most beautiful buildings in the center of Helsinki. Here we continue our walk. So we are walking along the Esplanade, which is right in the center of the city. It starts from the harbor and ends up by the largest street called Mannerheim Street. But there's a couple of points of interest that I want to share with you. This is another giant of literature, Finnish literature, Eino Leino. And here you could just scan this and the statue will talk to you. And over here, one of the several statues commemorating the great storyteller Sakari Topelius. It's right here. These are all literature giants of Finland from the 1800s. And finally here we are starting to reach the Swedish theater, which is right here. This is the Swedish language theater. All the plays are performed in Swedish. And in the distance here, we are ending up this tour by one of the oldest department stores in Europe. And it's called Stockmann. The Stockmann department store is really the place where people meet and go shopping, and also it's a place for meet for drinks and for meals. It's right here. When you are for the first time in Helsinki, or you're meeting somebody for the first time, you tend to make the date an appointment at Stockmann at one particular point, and I will take you to that point where people are meeting. So here in the distance we see the Helsinki railway station in the far distance. We'll pass here also a very interesting shop. So when you are in this area, a place to visit is Artec. Artec is a design store originally founded during the time of Alvar Aalto, the Finnish architect. And this is a place where they also have Alvar Aalto designed furniture, and they're featuring some additional interesting limited time corporations, like here is the Vitra House. A sign of change of times. It was unheard of that at the flagship department store they are selling vintage clothing. And now this flea market or vintage clothing concept has ended up also at the department store called We Love. So in this shop, they only sell vintage clothes. Become very popular. People are buying more and more second-hand or pre-owned or vintage clothing now in Finland. And over here is the Finnish design Marimekko, their flagship store here. So thank you very much for joining. I'm just walking around here in Helsinki in the center of the city. I started by the oldest street of Helsinki, and I walked along the Esplanade, showed what are the points of interest, and then now I've ended up at the end of the Esplanade, and I'm here now by the Stockmann department store. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're meeting someone for the first time and you don't know what would be a good point of reference, where to meet, I want to just show what is the point of reference. You could always be assured that everybody will make an appointment with you, and you can make an appointment with them. You see this clock over here? This clock is always say, let's meet under the Stockmann's clock. So this is the clock where people are waiting for their dates or meetings. So I'm ending my tour here of my walk here in the old part of Helsinki. So if you enjoyed this broadcast, give me a thumbs up and share with your friends. So I'll see you until next time for my next visit, a walk in Helsinki or a walk somewhere else. So thanks very much for joining in, and I really appreciate that you came to look at my broadcast.